Monos, 2019 war drama about child soldiers in Colombia, based partly on real-life stories. In fact, Wilson Salazar, who plays the messenger, was initially just signed onto the film as a consultant because he has lived through something exactly like this film depicts. And then later on, the director decided to also put him in the film as an actor. And it's also partly inspired by Lord of the Flies, in how it depicts a micro-society run by ruthless children outside of the control of adults, but also outside of civilization. The story follows the titular Monos, a small squad of teenage soldiers who are stationed in a remote bunker on a mountaintop in the middle of complete nowhere. They are tasked by their adult superiors to guard a hostage, an American woman. And at the beginning of the movie, they also get another task, to take care of a milk cow that was donated to this military organization, and they have to sort of keep it safe for the time being. Of course, because they're irresponsible, unreliable kids, the cow quickly dies as a result of an accident, and what follows is a spiral out of control where the established power dynamics get broken down and everything goes to shit. So first of all, the film has a very raw, naturalistic quality to it. It sometimes feels almost like a documentary, and that is the result of two things, I believe. One, shooting on real locations. It was apparently made in the wilderness, often requiring the help of the military, the Colombian military, to even get to those places. So quite difficult logistics, but it definitely paid off because the movie has a certain harrowing, desolate beauty to it. There's some very pretty images and shots, and it also further drives the narrative that these kids are really sort of outside of the real civilized world. Secondly, though, the movie uses amateur actors aside from just two people. None of those others were trained, and that can sometimes backfire in a film, but in here I think it works really well. The characters definitely do feel like real people. I believed in the world presented to me. There's also a sense of brutality and violence, even though most of it is not explicit, but rather implied. But you get the feeling of permanent, permeating danger, that these relationships and power dynamics are fragile, that it's kind of terrifying to see that these teenagers have a complete disregard for human life, and the smallest spat can result in breaking up what are seemingly friendships. I will say I wasn't a fan of the score. It's used very sparingly and it's kind of experimental. I think the intention was for it to fit the desolate nature of the imagery, but for me personally, it just wasn't something that clicked. And I will also point out that the narrative structure is not typical, in the sense that we don't really get a single main character to latch onto, but rather loosely follow this group of people as a whole. And even then, they're all pretty shitty human beings. Yes, as a result of their circumstances, but still, that means there isn't really somebody to strongly root for. So that might not work for everybody as a sort of engaging film. I thought it was decent overall. It reminded me at times of Apocalypse Now, which is a comparison also made on the movie poster. It's not a very happy film, but certainly an interesting exploration of the topic of young people being left to their own devices in a crazy, violent, dangerous environment.